Yeah, it was just literally me and my dad. Like, I didn't have any friends that could really validate my experiences. I had a friend who'd have mystical experiences, but I was alone my whole life. And I'm sure a lot of people experience this when they've, been through an awakening and you wake up to the matrix. Like, I could feel I was in a matrix my whole life, and I felt like I didn't belong on this earth.
Micah Sani, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for hopping on. I'm so grateful that you're open to exploring the world of the Akashic with me. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And for all of the moments we've got to share with the Akashic. It's really a blessing how much we've shared together in that space. So thank you for having me on the show.
Yay. Okay. So a little background for the listeners. We have known each other officially now for about 3 years. We met through a mutual friend who had highly recommended you when I was in search of some spiritual counseling. And I am blown away by, frankly, your accuracy and the feelings of comfort that come alongside the way that you deliver information. And I know that with everybody, it is slightly different, but the imprint that it leaves, because you create such protection around the space, is some of the best that I have experienced. And frankly, I've experienced some really shady energy healers before. And I mean, it exists for a reason, but not to knock the good that comes from the work that a lot of amazing intuitives offer. And you are one of the good ones. But I'm excited to talk about your story and how you got involved in this space. First and foremost, let's dive into your Kundalini awakening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so where to start with this story? So when I was 20, obviously I'm born in 2000, and in 2020, we were all going through, in a sense, a collective awakening when COVID happened. And I was living in London at the time, and I was living in Manchester at the time, and a friend of mine asked me to come to his house. He was at that time living in the countryside, to come to his house for a cacao ceremony. And I don't know if I'd experienced cacao that often. And for people who don't know it, it's basically medicinal ways of drinking the original form of chocolate. And I was like, I'm up for an adventure. I want to leave the city. So I went to this guy's house, and whilst so we get there, and there are all these different kinds of healers that are showing up because they're all there for the ceremony, all come to hang out together like they were friends. And I met this guy that was doing tarot readings, and he was doing tarot readings with a deck called the Osho Zen Tarot, which I now have actually, and it's a beautiful deck. And he started reading my cards, and I remember 3 specific cards that I thought, I don't really like the look of these. And one of them was the mind card, which is like the face of a woman, and all of her head is filled with cogs, and she just looks really confused and sad. And then there's the control card, and then there's the thunderbolt card. And the three of them together, it was just feeling like bad stuff. And I hadn't really done a lot of inner healing, and I was just feeling kind of taken aback by the fact that it was so obvious that I was being read in a way that I didn't like. And the Thunderbolt card was the worst. It had a person sitting in a lotus position meditating with thunderbolts all around them and people just flying out of the air, which now I know, because I've researched and learned, the tarot is the Tower card, and the Tower is all about spiritual awakening, big changes. And so I asked the guy initially, what does that card mean, the Thunderbolt card? And he looks me in the eye and he goes, you're about to have an experience like a Kundalini awakening that's going to change your life forever. And I didn't even know what Kundalini was when he said that. And I literally in my head, and I was 20 years old, I was like, okay. And I thought, I'm ready for that. Whatever that is, I just want to be in a safe space. And then before we could even end the reading, this woman comes over and she starts looking at the cards. And she's a woman I later went on, I got mentored by her. She really helped me at the beginning of my journey of learning how to feel energy and channeling. And she's a very nosy woman. And she came in and she was like, why do you feel the need to be in control? And she just asked me that straight out. And I said, because I feel like I can do a better job of things than other people can. And she kind of started asking these questions and digging into what was really going on there. And she was like, so you don't really trust other people, basically. And I said, no, I don't. And she said, do you want to release the program of trust? So she does theta energy healing, which is something I've also now trained in. A theta is all about removing programs. We had a theta session recently. It's super powerful, super, super strong. And I said, yeah, I want to release the program. Sure, let's go. Let's do it. And so we're outside, I'm lying on the grass. She just lies down on the grass and she starts this healing. And I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, I didn't even say what the fuck is going on because I couldn't even speak. All of a sudden, it was like the highest voltage. It was like someone had plugged me in to a wall and I was being electrocuted. It was like vroom, vroom. And I started seeing colors and it was like I was totally out of my body, but at the same time, more in my body than I've ever been before because the state of energy I was feeling was so unbelievably high that it wasn't a human experience, but I was feeling. So I'm moving through this and I'm like feeling this pain and this sadness and I'm screaming and the man who was the reader and the woman, they just started to guide me with their voices through the journey. They started to sing next to me. They started to like make sounds and they were, I guess, moving the energy around. And I heard them speaking to the angels. And when I was a child, my dad always told me you have two angels with you. They're always with you. And in that moment, I started to speak in Hebrew and I can speak Hebrew. It's my mother's language. And I started shouting to the angels, like, please take away whatever is attached to me. Because it's like I could feel like a energy holding onto my throat. And I literally felt hands like scoop down in front of me and pull stuff into the light. Like I literally felt like things go like this. Like it was the most visceral experience and take things into the light. And what they were moving actually was anger because I was moving through really intense emotions. And like the way I can describe it is like I was in my body and I was also watching myself. So I was like feeling myself like there's this shadow of anger that I'm carrying that isn't even mine and it's attached to me. And that's when the angels came in. And I was on this journey, moving through this motion. And then eventually I ended up on my front. And they put a gong on my back, like a singing bowl, and they started singing Shanti, Shanti, which means peace. And then something in me just softened and surrendered. And it was literally the feeling when that was going on with the singing bowl on my back. It felt like everything was closing in on me, like almost like I was in a birth canal and everything was super tight. And then it burst open. And to me, that's like a moment of rebirth, which literally in my life looking back was a before and after. And I went through some of my own birth trauma in that moment. And bearing in mind, okay, like there were just people catching up in a garden, just hanging out. And for about an hour, I was in this like mental process of extreme high energy, which I had no control over. And then for about an hour, I just remember thinking I have to be just as streamlined as I possibly can. I crossed my legs and I crossed my arms and I just lay there just like, and I felt it. I was like, I am receiving something and I just need to lie here and receive. And I was like praying in different languages and I was just connecting to the energy of the universe. And yeah, for an hour, I was kind of like just lying there like this, like swimming on grass. And then I walked over to the area where there was a forest and I just looked up at the trees. And then my friend who hadn't been there before, she arrived and we just started laughing together. And she was just like, what happened? And I was like, I literally don't know. Because obviously people had told her, like Mika's just had this like crazy like episode. And I was just like, I don't know. So I go back to dinner with everyone and I've got like mud on my legs and like grass in my hair. And I'm like, I go back and I'm like trying to like neaten up my skirt to like sit and have dinner on the like a picnic dinner. And then the guy that had done the reading for me, so he sat by me and he said to me, you wanted to know where Kundalini awakening was? Well, there you have it. And I was just there like I was just in shock. I did not, and people were like, obviously I was surrounded by healers and people were like, that was so beautiful and all of this. And I just couldn't fathom what had happened to me. And for about 6 months to a year, I actually didn't like understand that as being a Kundalini awakening. I just didn't know what it was. And then I met people who had been through Kundalini. I started learning, and then I realized I had been through a Kundalini awakening. But from that point, my entire life changed. And throughout my life, I'd felt like I was waiting for something to happen. And in about 3 to 6 months of that experience happening, I remembered like every past life, and I was channeling, and I was basically going in. I would close my eyes to meditate because I've been meditating since I was 14 years old. I've been meditating for a very long time. But when I was 20, I had the awakening. So I started meditating, you know, as I would, and I would be sent into visions for 2 hours on a journey through past lives, seeing all these things. And we'll get into, you know, what the Akashic is like, what channeling is like. But this opened without me asking for it. All of a sudden, I could feel and sense energy all around me. And it was a difficult time because it was COVID, and I was living with someone who was really struggling with the external reality we were living in. And I didn't realize how energetically sensitive I'd become. And so, you know, the last 6 years had been me basically honing in on my gifts, which obviously we'll go into. But yeah, that was my Kundalini, and that opened me to everything I can do today. I can see, hear, sense energy. I teach people how to read the records. And I've met, like, I know you because of the records. I know all of my best friends because of this journey I've been on. And it's the biggest blessing I've ever had in my life. And I just thank God every single time I do a reading. I'm like, and you hear me when I say thank you for this gift, because it's truly a gift from source, and it's allowing me to help people connect to light. And I just feel like a vessel for it. And I feel as I speak, my heart is just so thriving in that gratitude, because really it's such a gift. Yeah.
Totally. I love it. And I think when you've told me the story before, I think we've mentioned this, but the fact that you were lying there for an hour with your hands tied basically and your legs tied, it resembles a DNA strand. And the fact that you were able to like awaken this piece of you, and a Kundalini awakening is basically like this electrical energy that goes up your spine in the shape of a snake, in many ways, people say. And the fact that this was happening, you were the physical representation of what you were experiencing because you wanted to receive. Like it, I don't know, there's something about it that shows up in like I immediately thought of like the sacred geometries of the world. Like you literally were acting like a a physical embodiment of a reception, and you're doing this in a way that you, like, it was just unconscious. How cool is that you got to experience something so intuitively led that you're like, I don't know what's happening, but here we go, I'm gonna wrap myself up in a DNA strand. I just thought that's like, it's so amazing. And it just shows too how powerful these actions are that we do, like, and why posture matters and why mudras matter, because we're so electric. And even just these like different motions that we have with our hands, like they tap into different radio stations. So to be able to like do that upon your like first moment of going through what you said, it was like an episode. It looked like an episode to people. Like, that's really freaking cool. Were you, I want to talk a little bit about your childhood. Were you, do you believe that your childhood and your upbringing afforded you this opportunity to connect in and have this Kundalini awakening?
So I believe that people who have spontaneous Kundalini awakenings, like, it's always meant to happen to you, whatever your circumstance. But I was raised, especially with my dad, I was raised in an environment where the magic of reality and the spirit world was never shut down. I was never told, like, those things aren't real. My dad would tell me, you are an ancient soul, you're older than me, and you've been here before. And it was stuff he was telling me when I was 6, 7 years old, and it resonated. And so all of these things, like remembering my past lives, I didn't have any resistance to it, because in my heart, I'd learned all of this is real. Like, what we see with our eyes is only the beginning of what we actually can know about. And so I definitely would say that my childhood meant that I was able to open with so much ease. And it's not that the journey was easy, but I didn't really resist what was happening to me. I didn't think I was crazy. And, it was hard. It was hard opening to the energy world because you let in everything and you have to learn how to protect yourself and how to be discerning of what you want to speak to and what not to. But my sister was actually the reason why I learned how to channel so much. I'm really from a family who are aware that there's more than meets the eye to this world. And I'm so grateful because I've met a lot of people who have been on this journey and their families totally rejected them. And I'm really lucky that actually my family helped me awaken that by never shutting down my gifts. Like I think I've read from my mum, but I've read from my sister a lot. I've read from my dad. Like I've connected to our ancestors who have passed and like helped my dad to heal from some of his grief with his own father. So it's actually been something that's like definitely affected the people around me. And it's like I can give back because I got to where I am because they let me be who I am, and they let me be who I am. So yeah, I would definitely say I open things. And also with the angels. So my dad is Muslim and my mum's Jewish. And in all religions, there is elements of mysticism that passes through, but it kind of depends on the person who reads and who basically absorbs the knowledge, how they're going to choose to take it. And my dad is a very spiritual person. And the way that he sees the world is through the eyes of someone who is deeply open to all religions of the world and understands that the spirit world is part of our reality. And he says in the Quran that they exist there, angels, spirits. So those are the things I was raised on believing. I wasn't necessarily raised religious, but I was raised with this sense that there is these other realms that are very normal to exist. So yes, I would say that it definitely helped.
And what would you say, like when you first, because you said you were meditating for a few years, a bunch of years prior to this, what connected you to the discipline of meditating? Like what was your why? Because I think a lot of people tend to think that they don't have time for meditation or it doesn't really do anything for them. Like, what was your reason? Because at that point, it sounded too like even though you were drawn and you had this awareness of spirituality, like even going up to that event that you had, like there was this desire to control. So was that monopolizing your why behind it? Like what? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I love this question. So I initially started meditating because I had insomnia for many years. So from the age of like 7 or 8, I could not get to sleep easily. I would like lie awake for hours and it would make me really sad. And sometimes my dad would even give me like a sleeping pill because he thought I had nothing else I can give for you. And I would go to school the next day as a zombie. Like sleeping pills are not good for kids and they were natural sleeping pills, but they did not work for me properly. And the reason why I couldn't sleep was because I had an extremely active mind. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I would lie there thinking and it was just like I could not relax properly. And sleeping was the time where my mind and all the things I hadn't thought of would have a space to process, but it wouldn't be comfortable because I'm trying to get to sleep. And when I was around 14, my friend's mum actually said, "Oh, why don't you try candle meditation? You just stare at a candle." And I also believe like when we hear things from outside of us, our soul, when it's ready to hear, will listen and take it in. So I believe at the age of 14, which is really quite young to be meditating, my soul was ready to learn and ready to go on that journey. So I started doing candle meditation. And from a very early stage with my meditations, things would get really intense. Like I would feel the whole room breathing. My body would go into a state of like tingling and vibrations. And I very early on also learned the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, which I used to chant in my head. And it would send me into a state that was like trance. Looking back, I was basically getting myself into a trance state. So people say, "Oh, I want to get to that place and I want to meditate," but my head gets in the way. But something really magical was happening to me, which I'm very grateful for as well, because it helped me move through when the resistance did come up, which is the very early on I was having basically mystical experiences whilst meditating. which, yeah, looking back is amazing. And so I would tell my friends in school, like, you have to meditate. Like, my whole body was vibrating and it felt so good. And, you know, I would get some of my friends to meditate. And some of them did and some of them didn't. And yeah, at the end of that, I actually heal my insomnia. So I continue meditating. And I wouldn't say I was meditating every day. And then I traveled to India when I was 19. And then I started meditating every day. So literally so the last 7 years, I've meditated every day without fail, and maybe gone maximum 2-3 days, which I know is really good for my brain and my nervous system, because I learned when I was 14, 15, I listened to Sam Harris, and he was saying that he believes in 10 years' time, which is 2024, he believes that people will be prescribed meditation in the same way that we're prescribed exercise. And we're not necessarily by medical doctors. Meditation and mind work is just as big, and everyone knows about it as much as they do with the gym, which when I was 14 was not the case. So it's really interesting how it's come about. And yeah, that's my meditation practice. That's how I got into it.
How cool is that? And I like the fact that you were so open to exploring something that, I mean, especially as a teenager, I feel like a lot of people would be resistant to, you know, like, I don't want to sit and just like let time go by or something. Like, I just feel like at the time when mental health was almost just being prescribed a diagnosis for like, hey, you're depressed, right? Like people wouldn't care about that in that way. Like, sure, there were spiritual hugs and pockets to go into, but I think until everyone was like at home during 2020, that just didn't exist. This world there was a resistance around it, and I think it's because we are just so used to what we know, and this like momentum of like, okay, Groundhog's Day, we got to wake up, got to do it again, and then they go back to sleep or something, right? And the fact that, yeah, it's just amazing that you were able to kind of like be like, all right, I'll give it a shot and see what happens, and you were able to stick with it for almost every day up until this, like, and I'm gonna say heal your insomnia. Like, that's amazing, and people would, I think, liken that to miracle in a way, because so many people I think just don't necessarily trust their abilities to do these things. So the fact that you're living proof of being able to just do that is really cool.
And, you know, you said earlier about the control thing and like whether that was part of the why. I would say from a very young age, I was very disciplined, and it was sort of on par with control, but it meant that if I wanted to break or make a habit, I knew I would do it. And looking back, I'm so glad that actually I developed discipline from such a young age, because it meant I would show up. There was something in me that always thought, and even feels now, I'm going to do it if I want to do it, and I'll figure out how, and it might take time. And I'm also a Capricorn, so that might also play into that kind of steady motion. I still fall prey to instant gratification like everyone else. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I definitely do think that helped. But the thing with the insomnia and meditation is people could say it's a miracle, but there's so many studies coming out about what meditation does to your brain and how much space it provides basically for new ideas, for neurons, I think, to grow again. And when you're living the same life day in, day out, you're basically trapped in stress. Unless you're enjoying your life, which a lot of people living in Groundhog's Day probably aren't, there's no room for new ideas or ways of seeing the world, and you are stuck. And meditation, now that I can feel energy, you can feel when you start to meditate and you go deep, you start to soften. All the stresses in your body start to let go, and you literally feel an energy of healing around your body. And Joe Dispenza speaks about it. He says, you know, when you meditate and you really go deep, especially in his meditations, you're entering the quantum field where there's a unified space, and that unified space is orderly, and it creates order in our own body. So it makes sense when you're meditating, you're not thinking about reality and what you have to do every day and your to-do list and getting to the gym and going here and meeting that person. When you have silence, your body responds to that, because our thoughts affect our body. And if we're stressed every day, then our body's stressed every day, and then we're sick and we can't sleep. But if there's space for rest, our whole body's going to respond to that. And yeah, I truly believe if meditation was a prescription and people really stuck at it, that so many people with health issues, it would massively improve.
Preach. Tell me, for people who are listening, because so you started with candlelit meditations, and just to underscore, it's basically being able to sit with a flame on a candle and watch it as it goes, and it gives somebody something external to help focus attention when there's just like so many distractions around, where we're used to externalizing so much. So are there let me preface this too by saying meditation is simply the act of being able to sustain presence, right? And we could be in active meditation and we can be in passive meditation. But because you have been practicing meditation for so long, what are some practical ways for people? And I think that this is a very important message to put out there, to practice and start getting used to the meditative state or flow state, especially in this time that we're in, where there's just so much trauma and constant exposure to things. What do you recommend as a launching pad?
Definitely listening or having a track that doesn't have lyrics that you can listen to whilst you meditate. So I started with listening to Indian flute music tracks, which are all over YouTube, and they're 3 hours long. They last ages. And something I would do is, if I notice my mind is trailing off into thoughts, I'd anchor myself back in with music. And now I still listen to music. I listen to sound bowls. And I find that having something that anchors you into what you're listening to, your meditation through sound, can really help. I've also tried japa beads, having something physical. I think people knowing themselves is important. If you're someone who, it depends how busy your mind is, but 9 people out of 10, or maybe even 10 people out of 10, when you start meditating, your mind is going to be very loud because you've never gone in just to listen. And that means you will get distracted by your mind and go off into thoughts. And you'll just spend 10 minutes basically thinking rather than meditating. So music can really help to hook back into a space of silence. And something that I practiced over the last few years, I'd say like 3-4 years, I've really come into this awareness, is telling myself when I start to go into my thoughts that I am the awareness behind my thoughts. And I try to just sit in that awareness. And I know that's for Vipassana meditation. It's about coming back to being the observer presence of your thoughts. I think just saying that, I am not these thoughts, I am the observer watching these thoughts, reminds us, hey, I don't need to be a part of this story. And then we can come back into silence, into that awareness, which is just there.
Oh my God, I love that. I absolutely love that. It's very similar to a lesson that is in the School of Human Design, in which, we have our strategy and authority, and then we have these centers that are in the upper, I'm going to call it the upper region, which is the head and ajna center. And these are it's almost like the teachers tell us that we are just passengers in our car, in the driver's seat. And we use this as the observer, but the real brain behind our individualism comes down to utilizing our individual authorities, which in layman's terms is our intuition. And granted, and I love this because I also participated in your Akashic Records course, which I think I highly recommend people doing. But you talk about all of the different channels that we all have access to, and it's parallel to human design, because some people need to follow their instincts gut wise, they have their sniffer, they have to talk things out, and that can help create more awareness. But when we utilize our mind is more for what is considered outer authority. And outer authority is giving the other advice, right? Whatever is coming naturally through, it's more useful to utilize our brain for the external world. Our strategy and authority is for our internal world and decision making. And that is a very challenging practice. because we are here essentially, I think, for the most part, to forget how to use that so we can then remember how to come back to that self. And when we have that, less resistance happens, which sounds like even what happened during your awakening, and tapping into the Akashic. But I would love to talk about, so after you had your Kundalini awakening, you ended up like practicing and starting to become really sensitive to energy. And I can only imagine when you haven't experienced such an awakening before, and then becoming hyper attuned to all of these dimensions and frequencies and beings around you, like, you know, the overwhelm that you probably experienced with that. And my understanding and understanding is that just like in this dimension, in our reality, our tangible reality, there is good and there's not so good. And so to experience then otherworldly things, and to have to practice this basically with not like only the tools that you have in your tool belt, like, how did you go through that?
Again, I was so blessed in so many ways just after my awakening. So with Kundalini energy, it's not just the energetic world that you're then having to deal with, it's all the emotions that you never felt. So, because Kundalini energy clears stuff. So I was dealing with a lot of grief, a lot of sadness. I was healing a lot of past lives, and I was lucky enough to work with a really amazing healer who was an Atlantean soul healer. She did a soul retrieval, and I'd been having recurring dreams about falling to my death in a plane into fire. And I didn't tell her about these dreams. I was just having these recurring dreams. And she did a 2-hour soul retrieval, and it was really deep and intense. And she wasn't even on the phone to me when it went on. I just felt the healing from afar, and I was crying. And when we came back onto the call, she said, I witnessed you as a soldier falling to his death in a fire, like in a warplane, and you couldn't get your seatbelt off. And I was working with healers that was so attuned. Like, I paid the equivalent of like $70 for that session, and she did like a 2.5-hour session that was so deep. And I've met a lot of my friends have worked with people who they've wasted money on. They've had healings, they've had sessions, and it didn't actually take them anywhere. Whereas I was so lucky that right after my experience, I worked with healers that were purely working to support me to heal my past life karma. I had past life healing done in other planets, like not done on other planets, but done where I went to other planets. And the woman who did the theta energy healing on me, for about 6 months to a year after my Kundalini, she became like a mentor. I would stay at her house. I was receiving readings from her. I was going to events with her. I was going to circles at her house. And I think like a lot of people around me thought she was quite weird, and my mum was kind of jealous of her. But she was such a big part of the reason I was able to manage what I was going through. She introduced me to people who were just channelers as if it was normal. And it made me realize I've been having these visitations for years with extraterrestrial beings, and this is actually something that other people experience. So I was alone as a teenager experiencing a lot of supernatural stuff. It's like when I learned to meditate, I then started having a lot of like astral projection experiences. And so after my Kundalini, even though I started to awaken to a lot more energy and I started to feel a lot more, it was the first time in my life where I was like, wait, other people know about this? It was just literally me and my dad. Like, I didn't have any friends that could really validate my experiences. I had a friend who'd have mystical experiences, but I was alone my whole life in this experience of reality. I felt like, you see that image of like the yellow light and everyone else is gray. And I'm sure a lot of people experience this when they've, been through an awakening, and you wake up to the matrix. Like, I could feel I was in a matrix my whole life, and I felt like I didn't belong on this earth. It was just a sense of, I don't get why everyone's not on this level. And I was thinking so deeply my whole life. And then I met people that validated it. So I was massively supported by that woman. And I was meeting people who were aligning with my field very fast. Like in 2021, I met 90% of my friends who have become my closest best friends. Between 2021 and 2022, I met the most important people in my life that exist in my life now, which is just massive and incredible. And I believe it happened because I was on a frequency where they were ready to meet me. And meeting these people, it was like, I don't know if you've ever felt this, where you meet people and you think, imagine if we'd known each other as kids. Imagine if we'd been grown up together and we could have had each other as friends. Like, these are the friends that make me feel like I am a valid human being, like my life has meaning. And I never had those friends before in that way that looked at me and they were like, hey, I get you. And that was massive. And I believe friendship is like one of the biggest parts of my life. I mean, my friends make me feel like a full human being because of the conversations we have, because of how deep we can go. And that was a big part of my awakening as well. Having people around me that loved me, that saw me, that held me through that experience. My sister as well, she was really there for me. You know, I lost all of my friends. It was like all of my good friends. It's just the frequency shifted and I couldn't relate anymore. And I felt so deeply alone. And it was this horrible period of time where I didn't really know what was going on, but I knew I couldn't go back. I didn't know what was ahead of me and I just had to trust. And I do feel like I have a very strong soul that will guide me. And I feel like that's been there all my life. It's like my higher self will speak to me, even though I didn't know it was my higher self. And she'll tell me things. And I trust that voice. And I've always trusted that inner knowing beyond what other people say. And I think at this time, I really started to rely on that. I was like, this is weird. And I am losing all of my friends, but something in me 100% knows I'm on the right path. And so the woman who was there was a really big part of it. My friendships, my sister who was accepting of me at that time, and books. I was reading, so 2 books that changed my life was Archangel's Guide to Enlightenment, where I used to read that book and I would close it and cry. I would read 3 pages and I would close the book and I would cry because so I'd always felt connected to the angels. And again, no one ever had told me, like, people have done deep studies into angels. Thousands of people across the world have experienced angels. And these 2 people had channeled a book about how to communicate with angels, how to understand them. And it was so overwhelming, the light and the confirmation of that world, that I literally couldn't read it without crying, without closing it and crying. And also I was highly emotional after my Kundalini. So that book really changed my life. And then I was also reading Sanaya Roman's book, which was called Energetic Empowerment Through Awareness. And it's all about understanding your psychic energy and what's yours versus what someone else's. And I recommend this to anyone who's gone through Kundalini. You have to learn this stuff. I did a reading today and my client wants to go deeper into developing her gifts and she wants to work with me one-to-one. And I was thinking a really good idea is to get like list of books that would help her. And that is the number one, because that book basically helped me. I started to practice telepathy in my life. I started to practice noticing what's theirs, noticing what's mine, and protecting my boundaries. And it's amazing how books show up in your life. Like, this woman will never meet me, and her book literally saved my life at that time. So those 3 things were massively beneficial. And I think just staying with the path, I had moments where I was thinking, I'm going crazy. I'm really going crazy. And I was always supported at that time. Like, I started to connect with my spirit guides very early on because of the woman. And there was this one week where I was afraid. I was thinking, I'm seeing things, I'm hearing things, I'm scared. And the guide said to me, we're going to shut down your third eye for the week. Like, we're going to stop. And it all just slowed down. And I feel really blessed in my life that I have this connection to the universe, this life, that I feel life always meets me. And I believe that because I've always seen that even in the darkest times, life has always showed up to support me. And so I attract that. I attract that with my spirit guides. I attract that with friendships. I attract that with relationships. There's a sense of people have my best interests at heart because I believe that the universe has my best interests at heart. And I think that also got me through that time.
How do you navigate for people who are having their spiritual awakenings or are playing with the spiritual fields and realms for the first time, or just are in it and maybe aren't aware of this, but like, how do you navigate discerning things in these realms?
I would say practice. It's like I was saying to my client today, when you meet someone, you know, you can suss the energy if you've met many different kinds of people. You learn what's good and what's bad. Like a child is very attuned to what's good and what's bad. And really, the way we connect to the spirit world is the same way we connect to each other. We can feel when someone's off. And in my course that you've done, I speak a lot about connecting to your instincts. Like intuition isn't a psychic power. It's actually like, it is a psychic power, but psychic powers are actually our animal instincts. They're very connected to our bodies. And I'm actually doing a course in Kabbalah, and they say the same thing, that intuition is an instinct. And actually, animals can have a much better intuition than us because those instincts are inbuilt in our bodies. And the thing is with our society is that we've gotten separated from our bodies knowing. So my course is actually about learning to listen to what's true inside of you. And this is why children are such good judges of character, because they can detect energy without having to meet someone. It's the exact same in the spirit world. You start to detect, oh, I can detect that I don't like that. I can feel how that makes me feel. I don't want to interact. And then another thing that we look at in the course is doubt, because a big part of people not waking up to their powers is this doubt. I did a circle last year and I did a journey into the Akashic Records. And I said, the way I guide people as the records as a group is different to the readings. I'm guiding people in, but I don't speak about see this, notice this. I use the words very carefully. I basically use words which allow you to open to every sense. What can you smell? Can you taste? What can you feel? Notice how your body's sensing. Can you see anything? So that every single kind of person with their different psychic gifts can open to what's there. And when we went around the circle, it made me laugh so much. It almost annoyed me a little bit, but it mostly made me laugh. Every single woman, on like 90% of them, they said, you know, I don't really see things, but I was climbing the wall and there was this being next to me and we were in space. And I'm like, so you don't, and every single woman said, they're like, I don't see things, but I saw this light. And it's like, every single woman had this extremely visceral visual experience. And as I was, and afterwards I said to them, I said, guys, I just want you to notice that every single one of you just had a very deep psychic experience. And you all prefaced that sentence with, I don't know how to. And I said, this is a big thing in learning how to harness your psychic gifts, trusting that you can. So with spirit connection, a big thing that we have to overcome, and that comes with practice, is not doubting what you see and what you hear. And usually the first impression you get, that's the one you go off. When I first did the records, there was doubt that came up. And then I started to tell people things that I would have no clue about, like someone's life on the other side of the world that I've never met. And they were going, yeah, I know that. And I'm like, well, oh my God, I don't. I'm clearly getting something right here. And then when you get that confirmation, when you're reading for people and you go, oh my goodness, that's resonating with them, that's the truth, you start to trust yourself. And it really is, like I say with the records course, I'm teaching people a skill. Like you're going to come not knowing how to do something and you're going to leave knowing how to do something. And it is like that. It's like you can't learn how to play the piano without sitting down and playing the piano multiple times. That's the same with spirit connection. You have to practice again and again and again to discern bad and good.
That for a lot of people, I think is going to be very helpful. And it prompted another question. So I'm going to ask two questions because I think it'll be good just to kind of get into it. But the first one is segueing into how can you, for people who are practicing discerning and trusting themselves, how do people tell the difference between what is imagination and what is a download? The second question, sorry, I just realized I said I was going to ask two questions. The second question is then what is the Akashic Records? Like, what is your experience of it in all of your professional years doing it?
I love professional years. I love that. It's like, it's so magical, but it is a profession. I love that so much. So the discernment, how to discern between your imagination and a download, it is So downloads, I would say, come with a lot of clarity. It's something that you can feel very strongly in your body, and it can stop you in your tracks. It's like it comes in, it's very clear, it's very directive, and it's also sometimes something that you wouldn't necessarily have expected. It's the kind of thing where you go, really? Okay. Whereas imagination, you kind of have to generate it yourself. There's a bit of effort there. It's maybe a little bit softer. The experience of it can be a little bit looser. Imagination is a very powerful thing for sure, but a download is something that comes through like a flash, and it doesn't require you to generate energy to do it. It comes in. Whereas imagination is kind of you using your energy to go out. And again, this might sound vague for someone who's never experienced like those specific downloads, but it really is a thing of practice. I think that if someone hasn't experienced a download hundreds of times or thousands of times, and they haven't, they haven't labeled it as a download, then they don't have an awareness of that difference. And it is this thing of you have to fine tune your knowing of what is and what isn't. But the simplest way I could say it is imagination is energy leaving, and you have to exert effort, and download is something you receive, and it's simple, it's clear, it can surprise you.
I love that. It reminds me, actually, as you were saying this, one of my first teachers, she mentioned that, imagination is still something that you are you're actualizing from this greater source, right? So it's almost like you're turning on the car, the ignition, by activating your imagination, because so many people, I just don't even think get into that play state very much. So being able to play and do childlike activities helps ignite our engine, and then whatever kind of comes out of this flow state is could be part of a download, that the ones that feel random and instantaneous. So that's like our foot on the gas, once we turn on that ignition, it's that foot on the gas activating everything. So it just reminded me of that when you were saying it, like it's the external push and it's the internal pull of the two.
I love that. And it made me think of another metaphor, which is like imagination can create the environment for a download to come in. So with the metaphor of the car, going off of that, it's like you drive the car and then you see a rainbow, but you might not have been able to go on that drive to see the rainbow. So imagination, it's like it can open the doorway for a download. I love that. Love that analogy.
Yay. So tell me, what is your interpretation of the Akashic Records?
It's interesting because I've been thinking of this a lot as I start to try and get clarity in my branding, which is something I've struggled with because the Akashic is so vast. But I'm a Mercury in Capricorn. I'm like, we've got this. Let's ground this. And the simplest way I could say it, I've had many experiences in the Akashic and they've all been entirely different. But the Akashic Records is the infinite field of energy that we are all connected to. It's an infinite space. It's not even really a space. It's space and time, memory, emotion. It's the all. It's the web that connects us all. And when we go into the records, when I go in for someone else, when I go in for myself, or when you go in with a specific question, you're asking this infinite library of information for a very specific point of information. And so people ask me, like, is it a book? It's a book. It can be a book to our minds because the human mind likes symbols, but it's a symbol. The book is not what it is. Information is not a book. It's energy, and energy is formless. We can't see it. We can see it in terms of forms, but in this human body, we interpret it as a symbol. So if we're seeing it as a book, it's an infinite book that goes on forever, and we connect to one tiny dot, and that dot is extremely vivid, expansive, detailed, because the universe is so vast. So when I experience the Akashic Records, it's different every time, depending on the person. So, for instance, this morning I read for someone and the energy was very green and it was very kind of mystical and it was gentle. And when I read for myself, it's very orange and the visions are very different and the information is very different. And like I read for you many times, the information is very direct. It comes in very clearly. It doesn't waste time. Whereas some people, you know, they spend ages on like very artistic details, and it really depends on the personality that's asking the question, the types of questions being asked, the way people asking questions, like if they give space for the questions to move, or if they ask too many questions in one go and you kind of don't have a flow. And every record reading is essentially very different. But the way I can describe it is it's a journey, and the texture, the feeling is different. But it is like going on a ceremonial journey, and you receive information. And, you know, again, it's this thing, and you know it because you've experienced it so many times. It's like you have to go on the experiential journey to really understand what's going on here. And that's why I feel sometimes I'm like, how do I market this? But then the last 6 years, I basically have done zero advertising, and it's my most popular thing. And it's because the energy of this is so potent and so beautiful. My friend was even saying the other day, because I'm like trying to hire like people to get to do it for me. And she goes to me like, why are you trying to fix something that's not broken? And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I do get that. But I kind of want a little bit more regularity. Like I want to create a world where people are like, I get this. I want to know more. Whereas I've gone too many directions these last few years, but it's like the energetic frequency of the Akashic Records has been so bright, and just out of nowhere, people just go, hey, I heard about you from this person, I want to do a reading. And they've never met me, and they just pay me money to do a reading. I'm like, this is amazing. I mean, that's what happened with me and you. You didn't know me, and you were like, hey, I heard about you from Helen. You're great. Let's go. And I was like, oh my gosh, doesn't even know me. This is, you know, and then we met in Paris. Like, we're now such good friends. And yeah, the beauty of this, and actually as I say this, I'm feeling this, like the Akashic Records is a unifying space. And what I notice is when people come to the records, it's like they reconnect with parts of them they need to reconnect with. And I've noticed that my journey with the records has connected me to so many people that I never knew. The records have brought me into being with them. And they've also, like, you know, I've taught people how to read. They've then gone on to share with other people. And really, it's this unifying web, and it fits those spaces where we need more love, more clarity, more connection. It really is. It's the unified field, and that field is loving. And I feel when I'm there, I'm bringing through, like I channel the information, but the space I hold actually holds that field, and it connects people to that unified sense of love. And I think that's why it's so healing.
It's incredibly healing. I have gotten in many sessions with you, and I've said this to you over and over again, but what it feels like is that I am getting at least 3 months of therapy, in an hour, because it is giving me exactly what I am needing at that time. And the way that my field works is that it's a very direct and pointed field. So I'm getting very direct and pointed information. And to other people, it might not be it might not be that way, but you're getting exactly what you need. And you're simply a conduit of this information, but the information is provided truly in the way that our souls are asking for it at that exact moment in time. And your girl's got in therapy in the past. She's gone to like different professionals before, and the level of medicine that is provided within a singular session is truly so incredibly helpful. Like you've become a spiritual counselor for me, and it has gotten me through a lot of stuff, a lot of transitions that in an era of like just needing to completely surrender, that wouldn't have happened. A prime example is like you actually helped me reconnect to my cousin who I had basically no connection to. All of a sudden her name was coming through, and we were talking about like something over here, and you were like, I'm sorry, I have to ask, like, who is this person? And I was like, but I don't really like communicate with her. She's like, I feel like come December it's gonna happen. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I let it go. But this was months prior to it, and I forgot about it. And I kid you not, maybe like, and time is shifty all the time. So like, I always give the flexibility of it happening, like, later on, if it's meant to, if the timeline has shifted, great. If not, whatever. So I really do let things go. But to the T, you said December it was going to happen. In December it happened, and I truly forgot about it because I was like, there's not a shot in hell that it's going to reconnect us, and it did. Like the timelines just ended up working out. So it's really phenomenal. Like when you hear something, you do let it go after, but with action happening, but like you let it go, and the medicine and the awareness just kind of runs through you. So yeah, I highly recommend getting an Akashic Records reading. It's pretty therapeutic. Pretty therapeutic.
Yeah, I'm so grateful, Joanna, for your words. It's taken me a long time to see just how powerful these sessions are. And I think I spent a lot of time in my own doubt thinking like, how is this really helping people? Like what? And it really feels like the last 6 months to a year, I've been like, no, like people receive so much. And I think part of it has come from me receiving my own readings and realizing these are such helpful spaces, and they tie up so many loose ends, and they create a sense of clarity. And yeah, so it's really nice to get that feedback, and I'm feeling good that I'm learning to receive that properly.
Awesome. I love it. So I figure what we could do is dive into a sample of how you channel the records, and let's
do it
and let people see your magic in real time.
Okay, so just inviting everyone on the podcast to take a breath. If you'd like to, you can close your eyes. You can keep your eyes open. I'm going to close my eyes. Just taking a deep breath all the way in. Exhaling, softening the shoulders, softening the jaw, softening the eyes, and coming into a presence within, noticing your body. And I'm going to begin by calling in Archangel Michael, warrior, protector, angel, to seal and protect all of our fields of the deep blue cloak of energy. And he places a sword of truth in front of our field so we can discern the truth of our truth amidst the noise of the rest of the world. And calling in Archangel Zadkiel, cosmic diamond violet flame keeper angel, to bring a purple flame around our fields, releasing any energy that does not belong to us, any toxicity, allowing that to be transformed up into the light of creation. And calling on Archangel Gabriel of the emotional body of the waters to bring his calming, beautiful energy into the space. And calling in Archangel Raphael, angel of the third eye, angel of medicine, to bring in his beautiful green emerald energy to surround our fields with love, with light. And calling in Mother Earth, Gaia energy to ground and seal and protect our auric fields, grounding us down to earth, supporting us in being held, cradled by the beautiful earth, by the soil, by the grass, by the trees, by the rivers, by the water, by the sun. The sun's not on earth, but the feeling of the sun. And calling in my spirit guides of the highest light vibration and intention, Black Jaguar guide. That's interesting. I'm feeling a snake coming in. The snake's not really come in before, but hey, you're the snake. Maybe she's here to stay. Calling in my Arcturian guides of the highest light vibration and intention to guide me through the records today and receive messages of true light, true love, true peace. I'm calling in my ancestors of pure light and love to hold the space for me as well, to keep my field protected, to keep all of our fields protected, and calling in the spirit guides, the highest light vibration and intention to anyone listening to hold their space with pure love and light intention. And I'm going to enter the records today, surrounded by this love, this light, with the intention of receiving information, receiving some images, receiving some light information for anyone who's listening to this podcast about what they can look forward to receiving this year, what hurdles might show up, and any information that we might need to know as a collective, and asking to receive that information. Thank you. So I was seeing this ball like connected to another ball, almost like if you know Kinder Buenos, and like they're locked together, and there's this thing unlocking, and I'm seeing a sun, and I also saw a turtle, and there's this sense of like almost like heating on Earth. It feels like it's not Like there is a physical heating, that's for sure, but there's also the sense of like fire, energy, movement, the sense of like, I'm feeling that thing of the critical mass where I'm literally seeing like the earth and almost like the layers of the earth being these fire energies. And it looks like that critical mass to bring light is nearly there, if not tipping over the edge this year. So we're going to have this point where it's like light is speeding in and there's more like the dark, and it's like I'm basically seeing like two sides of a rainbow. One's golden and one's like black and gray and white, and the golden rainbow is like pushing, and it's like it's basically gone beyond 50%. That's what I'm seeing for this year. And Joanna, you're welcome to ask questions, and we can kind of riff as if we're in, you know, reading 1-to-1, and I can just see what else comes through.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So how is that showing up for people? Now, I know I know that's a global question, and it's going to probably read a little different for everybody, but you know, reaching that point can feel big. I think even when you say that, you know, because when you hit that certain point, having an awakening, which is an interesting kind of through line through this conversation, but like having an awakening can feel very disarming, right? And so I just want people to have the awareness of what that critical mass feels like.
So I was seeing these images you were speaking. One was like of the eyes of a fly, and then a giraffe that keeps coming through. But asking the guides about what this crystal mass is going to feel like. So I saw this as you were speaking as well, and I felt this, and there's this sense of like people are going to be like, whatever's been holding them back, whatever like the word that's coming through really is, whatever bullshit has been in the way of them being in their power, whoever's ready, they're going to step up, and it's going to be with like a fire that's like, done. I'm done. Like the way a fire can just destroy things and it's over. It's like people are going to go, I'm done with living that life. I'm out. But there's also going to be people who resist change. I'm seeing it's like 3 sets of people. There's going to be people who are like ready to go, switch, done, I'm out, I'm ready for the next step. There's going to be people who it's almost like this purgatory where they're fighting the heat and they're fighting the change, and it's like it's weird I said change because I felt that word coming out as if it's multiple things, like change, physical change, and then change like money change, which was interesting. I felt like as I said change, I was like, there's a double meaning here. But yeah, the people resisting it, it's like I literally see that the fire will burn you up. And I don't mean that in the sense of like, you know, some sort of like purgatory, how you can burn up, but it's like the stress and the anger of fiery energy is going to feel almost too much or overwhelming, and it's going to create anger. And we might see like, you know, protests coming out this year, anger, rebellion. There's going to be a sense of like, there are going to be people who are like in the anger, basically, in the anger of the fire. And then there's a third group, and it feels more like new souls, and it's such a beautiful energy, like new souls coming into earth that are like, we were born to come into an energy like this. People who are born for system change, like these babies. And I've been thinking about this recently, these babies coming in to be the fire horses, and how powerful that energy is to be a horse. And it's these babies who are coming in who are like, they are born for leadership and to change things. And that's the third group. And it's more of a minority because it's not like there's like loads and loads and loads of people being born in comparison to the amount of people alive. But yeah, that's the third category. And I see that there's a lot of people, it's almost like there's a lot of people in that changing, but there's a lot of people in the center as well. Yeah.
Does it feel like the 3 different categories, does it feel like there's harmony with it? Does it feel like this year is going to have a lot more? It sounds like while there's fire energy, I'm curious where if people want it, like where the harmony comes into play and how people can access finding that.
It's interesting because when you say the word harmony, it's like it doesn't really fit into this picture, but we can like look into how it can, because I can feel how it can on like a personal and interpersonal level. But fire is moving so much, and it's almost like the energy I'm seeing is kind of like strap in because things are gonna get shit hot and real really fast. And it's like asking for water when there's a blazing fire, and it's like it might do a little bit, but right now it's like going with this energy is the most harmonious thing. Like, I think the big thing is not resisting, because what I can see is the issues coming up are conflict, and all conflict starts with internal conflict. And if we resist what's trying to pick up inside of us, and I feel like people on a spiritual journey, it's your gifts, like time to do this thing. Let this thing move through you. And if there's a conflict in there, it's going to feel disharmonious, because like what I can see as well is like, you know, speaking to the collective and on a collective level, we experience the collective level within. And so whatever we experience outside that's going to be a problem, it's the inside thing we have to look at. So if we can go with whatever's trying to be expressed through us, and I feel that's a big one as well, which it is in general enough, but what is trying to be born through you? What is trying to be expressed through your heart? And I feel like the message coming through is like, what have you been shutting down that you think you can't do it? Like, you think you're not the person to do it. And it's like, I even feel there's like joyfulness in it. Like, yes, you are. Go and do it. That really is coming through. Like, yeah, you are the person. Please, it's time. And stalling it will just create this like crunching feeling of like, no, I can't. And who am I to do it? And it's like, why not just dive in as if you were the person that's been chosen? Like, acting as if you are the person that's been chosen to come to earth and do the thing that you think that you should be doing every day of your life. It's like there's this humor here. Like the fire is so useful. There's this sense of like, we've been in the last year, it's been like the element of wood, and that's very slow and very ancient. And fire is like, let's go. Just like, here we are. Boom. So yeah. So that's the harmony is like, don't resist, basically. And focus on, you know.
How long do you anticipate this fiery energy push, like moving us?
Literally from like about now into next February, like mid-February, which kind of aligns with the Lunar New Year. So yeah, I feel like it's going to be hot for a while. And there's like a flip side to it, which is like, yeah, anger, conflict, it's all there.
Mm-hmm. So you're seeing people kind of really just leaning. They're the three categories: the people who are like leaning into this and just navigating their mission on this planet. There are people who are feeling the feels and feeling very hot and fiery. So there's protests that are popping up, and then people who the people who are born into this, who believe, like, who are these souls that believe that they are here for this reason. And the last question the last of the bigger questions that I want to ask, is there anything thematically outside of the energetic signatures of the people that we should be aware of? So like, you know, big moments in I don't know, in the like in politics or in the global landscape, the physical global landscape. Is there anything that we should just be aware of?
Like, you asked about politics and landscape, and it's like the clearest thing that came through was drought, water issues, like land drying up. That is going to be an issue, and it's something that it's already begun. It's already an issue, but yeah, drought.
And in terms of the representation of what drought is for people, what can people do to prepare and, again, feel as stable as possible in the fiery energy? It's interesting that drought is what's popping up in a fiery year.
So ask me about what people can do to deal with the drought, to move through the drought. So it's about, and I felt this, but what I'm seeing, it's like I'm seeing someone like biting a hand, and it's about the policies and about the systems that are creating situations where there's a surplus somewhere and nothing at the end. Like, this is an issue of inequality, because there is enough water for everyone, but water is like, environmental inequality is inequality, and it's created. And so, like, there's always this thing of like the people in the fire, like those people who are resisting, like they're needed as part of the collective. There's some people, everyone's needed wherever they are. And there is this, there's so much focus on so many things that we do as systems, as societies. And this is something that I believe is a zeitgeist that's going to grow, which is how are we looking after our communities environmentally? And so anything you can learn about how to look after, like for instance, even, having more trees in an area makes a place cooler. And that affects, I don't know how that affects water, to be fair, but trees definitely affect the environment that you're in. And the way you grow things affects the environment that you're in. All of these things, basically getting clued up on them to learn about how you can basically become sovereign over the environment you're in is going to be important. And it's almost like, we're living in a world where colonialism affected the environment, and we're living in the aftermath of that. And learning about equality is like going beyond that system, and the water is going to be a part of that. Like centralizing environmental equality. Yeah.
Wow, that was powerful. The ability to almost recognize it's like don't bite the hand that feeds you, but at the same time, the hand that has been feeding us has slapped us in the face so many times that it's like we are biting back now. And what can we do to recognize that if we come together in a way where it's like through the gift of reciprocity and the energetic gift of like heart-centeredness, that we can become these beautiful sovereign beings. I do believe that there's a balance between like having regulations and powers that are here, but here for the people. And there's just been so much illusion around like how much is for the people and how much is technically for a very small percentage. So it's very interesting that metaphor of drought had led to such a profound, big time message. So I'm super, super grateful that you were able to share that. But thank you. And I hope that people get just as much from that.
Amazing. I'm going to close down the field. So thanking Joanna for witnessing me, thanking all the archangels, Archangel Michael, Archangel Zachiel, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Raphael, thanking my angels and closing on the field, calling in Mother Gaia Earth Energy and thanking Gaia for holding us at all times, calling in Gaia Earth Energy to ground and seal and protect all of our energy fields as we ground back down into the earth, as we come back down, thanking my spirit guides of the highest light vibration and intention, thanking all of my beautiful ancestors that have been present, thanking all the spirit guides present, for anyone listening, all the beautiful spirit guides of the highest light vibration and intention, thanking you for being here, for holding the space, and closing down the field, now closing down the field, grounding back into this space. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Tada, Shukriya, thank you. Amazing. So as a collective, let's just do a little something to clear and close our field. So if you just bring your hands together and rub them, and then face your palms back to back. So you've got your backs of your palms facing, and then front together, back to back, front together, and then zip up your energy field as if you're zipping up a bag around you. And then imagine golden platinum rain just shining down your energy field, clearing anything that needs to be cleared and coming back. Yay.
Oh, I can feel it every time. That was so expansive. And yeah, I just think a lot of people are going to get a lot from that. First of all, where can people find you and what services are you offering?
Yes. Okay. So people can find me on Instagram. It's Micah Sami. And my name doesn't sound phonetically like how it's spelled. So you spell my name Michahsami. And there are very few Micah Samis in the world, so you'll find me quite easily. And my website is www.micahsami.com. And the services I'm offering right now, I'm at university, I'm finishing my degree, so I've only got one one-to-one service open right now, which is my Akashic Records readings, which I would highly recommend and is a beautiful gateway into other work that I do. For existing clients, I offer theta energy healing, which is a beautiful modality that helps to clear energetic beliefs and subconscious beliefs. And that's something that I do when I've done records readings with you, because I only really do them if I feel that it's necessary to go deeper into something that's blocked there that we can't unblock in the reading sessions. So if you're a first timer, start with the Akashic Records. Wonderful, wonderful space, 90 minutes. And in the package, you also get a 30-minute follow-up call to do whenever you want, which is just a space to be held further and to talk about your journey. And yeah, so that's what I'm offering right now. And I'm offering those Mondays and Thursdays, one slot each day whilst I am studying. That's my limit. And in September, I will be opening up my yearly Akashic Records Readers course, which is where I teach you how to read the Akashic Records. And that's a 12-week course. That's 3 months, I think, or is it 6? No, 4 months. That's 4 months where 3 months. No, it is 3 months, actually. Yeah, it's 3 months. Yeah, it is, because it's 4 weeks, so 12. Anyways, it's 3 months, but we go over a little bit because we have some breaks to consolidate the information. But it's a 3-month course, a live course where we meet on a weekly basis, and we have 3 modules and then an extra module, which is a module you can do on the side on your own. But 3 main modules we do together, and we go deep into the quantum field, how to open your third eye, how to clear psychic senses, doubt, nervous system regulation. There's so much in there.
Micah's also launching an Akashic Records course for beginners in which you will understand over the course of 4 months how to tap into your intuitive gifts and access the records just as she does, but utilizing your unique signature. I highly recommend following her and checking out this space. And I will see you next time.